Welcome, everyone. It is Wednesday night. We are on day 3 of our annual campaign, and we are doing all kinds of programming every single night to bring you different voices, different stories of people in the fertility community. And we are so thrilled tonight to have Ricki Steiner on. Ricki has never been on an Insta Live before. She has never shared her story. Here she is. And she has shared her story. She has talked about her story. She's talked about her feelings. She has spoken about pieces of her story. Hi, Ricki.
Hi.
I just said, you've never shared your story before. And I immediately took that back because that's not actually the
Yeah.
case. You have shared your story, but you haven't shared it in this setting. So here we are tonight. Um, so first of all, introduce yourself to everyone for the people who don't know you.
Hi, everyone. I'm Ricki. I live in Houston, Texas. I lived in New York and New Jersey before this, so I know all the things there is to know. I've been from my whole life. I work in marketing for a fragrance company. It's pretty cool. This is not like my thing. This is my fun on the side. I've been doing Instagram since 2018, actually, although you wouldn't know because my account is much smaller than most people's. Um, I started sharing from a place of grief, and Instagram has always been kind of like a diary for me of sorts. And I've just like continued that throughout my struggles. Now, unfortunately, infertility being the biggest one.
So, we usually have this like sort of prescription, let's call it. I mean, I'm a doctor, but we have this sort of way we do things here where we have people share their stories and we back and forth and we have this, kind of conversation back and forth. But you very clearly, when you and I spoke about this, and also what you mentioned on your stories today, is you want this to be something totally different. So why don't you like set the stage for everybody so people know what to expect here
Yeah,
tonight?
yeah, definitely. So I think as a way almost to make me feel better and also as a way for people to understand like kind of what's the point of this, I needed to reframe what this live is because I think for a lot of people who already follow me, they're like, I know your story. I already like read all your posts. Like, why would I go to a live? Like, yeah, I get the chesed part of it, but like what's the thing? So I wanted for myself also to for it to feel kind of like we can't all hang out. Like we can't all come together. I have so many people in my own following who I know are going through this or something similar, or maybe something completely different, but they still relate to the overall messaging. And I just wanted everyone to feel like in this time of great stress for a lot of reasons, like we could just go on this live and hang out with each other and drink our little drinks and have our little snacks, even though I'm not doing that. But hopefully, you
I'm
guys at home
yeah, I
are.
was gonna say
I
I'm
have
getting my water.
water.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And just
exactly.
feel like, you know, it's tough because you guys are only in the comments, but still to feel like this is as much yours as it is mine. And like you can comment things if you want to. And while you're not actually in the same room as me, maybe it'll feel like I'm not just talking at you or only talking about my story, but talking with you and acknowledging that so many of you feel similarly or have similar struggles. And so it's not just like, oh, okay, another person just like telling me about their story. I don't want it to just be that.
And I love that about when you suggested it. I think it's, you know, we we do these like carefully curated support groups, right? Where we take a specific topic and we have people who've all experienced the same things and we get them in a room together, whatever, a Zoom room, and we try to support people because they know exactly what the other person is going through. But this is very much not the same, and yet it's the same.
Yeah.
That everyone is carrying different things. And I think both of us also really want to be sensitive to the fact that you may be holding something that you don't want to share and you don't want to comment about. And we absolutely, obviously understand that too. There is no obligation for anyone. Ricki Steiner is my maiden name. That's amazing. Hi, Perry. Um, there is no obligation for anyone to share. We just wanted to create a just a sense of warmth and a sense of love and being held. And if you can imagine that you're sitting in this like really deep cushy chair or a couch with a cozy blanket, obviously, if it's very hot where you are, get the cold drinks as opposed to the cozy blanket, but whatever. And maybe there's some candles around, and just relax. And we're here to hold you as we start this conversation. Um,
Yeah.
so Ricki, let's begin in the like there are a lot of people out there who are dealing with fertility challenges. There are a lot of people out there who are dealing with regular challenges. And I think that the vast majority of people are very private, and especially in the from community, in the religious community, people are even more private. For we could spend a whole like hour talking about privacy and shame and guilt and community and the nonsense and the gossip and all the stuff that goes on, right? But it there is only a certain kind of person with maybe dealing with maybe a certain kind of struggle who decides that in the moment, when they're actually in the midst of something, that they want to talk about it, not just with the intimate people in their lives. And so, like, talk to me about that. Like, talk to me about your thought process as you were going through this and why you decided to open it up. And I'm also curious, in terms of all of you who are out there, like, what do you hold back? What do you share? How do you make those decisions? Like, drop those things in the comments. We'd love to hear.
Yeah. I would love to say that I had this like talk with myself where I made like a smart, calculated decision. But as is with 90% of my life, like, of course, I didn't. I always knew that infertility was a big conversation. I had an issue when I was single where a lot of people were pushing me to talk about this topic just because I was talking about a lot of hard things. And so I knew it was out there. I knew about all these different accounts, but I really stayed away from that world because it wasn't relevant. It was one of those things where I was like, if I need to face this, I will. And I always kind of knew in the back of my head that this was going to be an issue that I faced. It's just one of those things like when you know, you know. I had no reason to believe that. My therapist used to like tell me off all the time, but I just knew that I would be here. So I think it was a way of like I'll address it when I get there. I got there. I people know how old I am. They know how long I've been married. It wasn't a surprise to me. It wasn't a surprise to anybody else, but still incredibly emotional to finally like realize I'm in this space and realize that I have a really tough journey ahead of me and that it's going to be a lot. And it kind of just like burst out of me. And I made like an initial two posts and I didn't address it more than that. And I thought that I wouldn't address it more than that. And my husband was begging me, please don't address it more than that. Like, come on. Um, and you just start, there are a couple of things that I posted. It's my highest engagement right now on Instagram is when I post about infertility. And I share that not because I'm trying to be like, oh yeah, well, I realized I get good engagement, so that's not, no, but it really made me realize how I thought, oh, there's so many people who talk about infertility. There's all these Instagrams, there's all these names out there. They don't need me. But when I saw the engagement, I was like, all right, they need me, I guess. Like, I guess they're they need another voice. So I know I can talk about hard things. I know I can talk about vulnerable things. I have no problem with any of that. I know what my boundaries are. I've said this like a million times. Probably people are sick of me saying it. I always, before I press post, ask myself what my goal is. I do those check-ins, and as long as this subject feels like it's productive for others, I will share about it. I'm very careful in how I share and what I share. There's so much that I haven't said. There's so much that I've like hinted at. There's things that, like, for example, I recently opened up about my egg retrieval being canceled. If that hadn't been canceled, I never would have posted about it. You would have never even known that I did it. You would not know that I was doing IVF right now. But it was canceled and it was done, and I felt like this feels safe to talk about because it's over. There's nothing else happening with it. The time that I do it again, and God willing, it happens and we move forward, you probably won't know about it because that feels too far. So it's always that like check-in, but I'm still messaged multiple times a day regularly by people saying that like they really connect with what I'm posting. And as long as that happens, I'm going to keep posting it. Not because I need your messages, but because you're showing me that this is what you want. And I'm not happy to give it to you, but I'm happy to give it to you.
I I think that there's so much there's like the core of what you're saying is that it's yes, it's for you
Yeah.
because you get support also, but more than that, because you have people in your own life. And now I'm putting words in your mouth, so I want you to kind of talk a little bit more about that. But like, yes, I'm sure there are people in your own life who are giving you the support that you need. This is not like there are many people who use Instagram or use social media as their
Yeah.
therapy.
Yeah.
They
No.
use it for their place to process. They use it like you said you use it as your diary, which is very different than a place to process, but more than as a diary, it's what I'm hearing you say is I'm doing this because I know this is something that still is not like completely talked about. And so if I can be one more voice making this normal, whatever that means, normal, then that's what I want to do. And I'm hearing, I mean, look, what people are saying here, right? Bringing awareness to important topics is
Yeah.
important, right? You're such a light. It makes me feel less alone. We do need you. I needed so much of what you offered already. So thank you. You're awesome. So many people thank me for referring to both. Okay, we're not talking about me
I'm
now. To
already crying.
right.
Like, I'm literally
So
already
right.
crying.
So this is what it is that Instagram, social media, for all of the evils that it has, and we do know that Instagram, social media in general, is a time sink, is this carefully curated, look at me on my vacation, look at me in my whatever, in my apartment and my perfectly decorated kitchen and my beautiful Shabbos table and my all my things, and look at my family. But there can also be such power in community building and bringing people together.
Yeah. I think I think Instagram can be really harmful, 100%. All social media, we know the statistics. However, when you when you put in the time to really curate your space and curate what you're seeing, it can, like Mindy said, it really can be the most supportive place. And while I'm not using it to process or like unload on people, although I definitely did do that a lot in the past, believe me, I was younger. I was in a very dark place. I needed people. But and I think we all are looking for a connection. And how many times do you see people talk about how do you make friends as an adult? How do you make female friendships as an adult? This to me can be that, especially when so many of us are dealing with similar issues. And I have made really, really great personal relationships that don't feel like they're just social media relationships. I have met people in real life. I have connected with people all over the place. And I think also like it, it allows you to find your people in a new way. Not all of us live necessarily in a community that exactly matches us or whatever it may be. I live in a community where I'm literally one of like two, three couples who don't have kids. That is not an exaggeration. That is actually fact. So, there's a barrier there, and this is really helpful. It's not like I can go find a supportive group of people dealing with infertility, primary infertility, no kids, to hang out with and commiserate with. I can't. There are people that I have here, but if I want to find people who are in my spot, I have to come to Instagram, and I'm never going to use it to be the processing, and I'm never going to use it when I'm like so deep into my distress. But when I ask myself, what's the goal of posting this? And the answer comes back as, I think this is helpful for people to read. There's this productive piece to it. Then I'm gonna do it.
Do you, you mentioned something about like, being in the only being one of the only people in your community who are in this stage of life, and you also said before, people know how long you've been married, so everybody does what we call fertility math.
Yeah,
Oh, you've been married for this long and oh, you don't have any kids, or your youngest is 6. Like you could almost see like people's wheels spinning, like you could see them doing the calculations in their head.
yeah,
I'm curious if you had any specific insensitive comments that kind of maybe even fueled some of this, like, I need to find my people because I'm not, I haven't found my people yet. So insensitive
yeah.
comments sort of before, and I'm also wondering about insensitive comments now. Like now that you are open, both on social media, that people here in this virtual space and in real life know. So I'm sort of wondering what role that may have played, and how those comments make you feel.
So I definitely have had some face-to-face situations, but I'm gonna twist the question a little bit because what I've heard even more is what people have said around me without thinking. And I personally have been thinking about this a lot as, I'm more into this whole awareness and working with organizations and taking like a real like spot in it. Like I feel like this is me saying, no, no, no. I'm like really, I'm not just like somebody out there talking about this. I'm taking my space in this, like working with organizations bit. People don't think, and when they don't think, and when they don't think things through, and they're in a space where they think that they're comfortable. Maybe they know a lot of people, but not everyone. Maybe it's a more laid back vibe. You can hear people say some of the most hurtful, judgmental, just totally awful, awful things. And I was in a few situations with groups of women where I was privy to conversations that made me so sad. It was just awful. It was awful. Like I, I I don't even know how to explain it without. I'm trying obviously very to choose my words carefully because God forbid like this should come back to anyone. I do believe people mean really well, but I think there's such a lack of social tact awareness that people get too comfortable and will say anything, and they don't necessarily know me and they don't know anything, and it's very quick I think for other people to say, well, they didn't know you, they didn't know you were dealing with that. But it shouldn't matter.
Correct.
Nobody should say these things about anyone ever in any, I mean, okay, if you're behind closed doors with your husband, I don't know what you say, but for the majority of
Make sure
situations,
the doors are
yeah,
closed.
right. Like it just, when you're in group settings and any kind of space, I think people need to like think more, but they can't think more unless they have the tools. Like people just have no clue. So we have to talk about it and we have to raise awareness. I had a situation yesterday where someone sent me a message that I felt was so painful, but I knew this was somebody who genuinely thought she was being kind and how she was like sending me this message. And it was someone who is someone much older than me. So a big generational difference. I don't know this person well, someone in the community. And I think it's very easy to jump and be and scream and freak out and whatever. I took a deep breath and I sent a message back and I said, I know you mean so well, but I use the words, I caution you against, insert sentence that you said, for many of us this could be really painful, yada yada whatever. I tried to be very careful and she wrote back, I'm so sorry, you're right. Like we had like a very nice conversation afterwards. I'm sure she's a lovely person, but people don't, they just I'm realizing more and more, we say all the time like, well, people don't think. They can't think because there's not enough awareness, there's not enough people saying like, hey, actually don't do that. So even more so, it sucks because the power's on us, right? The power is on the people struggling. We have to somehow find the strength to be like, hey, can you please actually not say that? Or can you please say it differently? Because that might actually really hurt somebody else who's dealing with this. And that's so hard. It's so hard, but we have to do it or nothing is going to get better.
Do you let me ask you a pointed question about insensitivity or possible insensitivity, right? You know, we I hear from so many people. I'm curious how you feel about this. I hear from so many people that they don't want people to come up to them or people to message them and say, I'm davening
Yeah.
for you. I'm praying for you. Oh, like, oh, sorry, let me do that better. I need to do it with the head tilt.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm davening for you. Like the nebach, the like, oh, the hell, like you have to do it with a
Yeah.
certain like angle to your head, right? Vomit emoji, exactly. Um, so we know that those kinds of comments, like, I I don't know a single person who like wants those comments. It's in a similar vein, like with singles, when people come up to them and say, "Oh, soon by you.
Yeah.
Oh, soon by you." Like it's like nobody needs those comments. Um, so the question is, you actually got one of these questions today.
Yeah.
It was, you know, if you know that someone is struggling, they have told it to you, they've taken you into their confidence, or you know that there's an influencer out there like you that is going through something, is it appropriate at any point to private message someone or to share with someone, in a private way and say like, hey, I just want to let you know that I've been thinking about you, or I've been saying Tehillim for you, or I was davening for you, I was praying for you when I was in childbirth. Like, is there ever a point where Is there ever a time where any of those comments feel good as opposed to feel yucky? And
Yeah.
obviously, I'm asking you. I'm
Yeah.
not asking the
Yeah.
world. Like,
Yeah.
this is about your opinion.
So I definitely need to give the disclaimer that I love when people tell me that they dive in for me, and I have to speak from like that place. I'm sure that there are people that are not hurt by it, but like trying to think of the right word, that it's just like a little bit uncomfortable or hard to hear. I personally love it. I get messages all the time. Every single time I cry, it means the world to me. I am in like the deepest pit of struggling with my relationship with God. I've been here before. I've had so many ups and downs with my spirituality and connection. It's something that I have to just continue to work for. But to be completely honest, davening right now is like, it's not happening for me. I can't do it. And that sucks. And of course, there's that like little voice in my head that's like, well, this is never going to happen for you because you're not davening for yourself. And people like, there's a lot of like, I guess, religious guilt out there too. Like everyone's constantly telling you that you need to daven and constantly telling you all the things that you should be like learning and saying and extra prayers and all this stuff. I can't. I cannot. I would like to be excused from that conversation. Like I literally can't. So knowing that so many other people are interested in davening for me or sending me a good thought or keeping them in mind is very, very, very important and powerful to me because it's one of those things where like, people ask me all the time, like, what can you do for someone? What can you do for someone who's grieving? What should I do? What should I? And I never have a good answer. But this is the thing that like you can do for me. We always tell people find out a thing that you can do for somebody else that like they can't do for themselves right now, or they're struggling the most with groceries or this, that, and the other. This is my thing. I can't dive in for myself right now. So if you're telling me that you can help me pick up the slack a little bit, it's the same as like, not to like bring children into this conversation, but it literally feels like the same way that people say like, oh, if someone has like a loss, you should take their children for the day and offer them
Oh, God.
childcare.
Oh,
This
God.
is, but this is my version of like, you're providing childcare for me. You're davening for me. You're taking that thing kind of off my shoulders that I'm unable to do. That is my solely my responsibility, right? This is my responsibility, but I'm struggling and you're helping me do that. You're like holding my hand through it. I I need, like, I just need it. Like, that is where I need help. I'm never going to be the person to ask anyone to daven for me. I'm not reaching out to Gedolim. I'm not reaching out to random people. I'm not doing it. But the people who, out of the goodness of their own heart, are doing it, or whatever they're doing, just even just thinking of me, like, it helps me breathe. Like, I don't know how else to put it. It relieves so much tension. And I know that I should be davening for myself. And I know this is something that I had to work through, but this is like where I am right now and I just can't.
Okay, so I have to say a couple of things. One is that who says you're supposed to be? Like, I have to just say that to you in this moment. Who says you're supposed to be like that you're supposed to be davening for yourself right now? And I'm saying it to you, Ricki, and I'm saying it to all of you who are out there. I don't believe that Hashem, that God expects more from us than any of us can handle in moments of crisis and stress and pain. I was also one of those people who could not daven for many, many, many months, possibly years, in a way that was really like felt like I meant it. There were a number of points where I was just like mumbling things because I was
Yeah.
supposed to be mumbling things, um, but without any feeling or intention at all. Um, And I think that for all of you who are out there who are also feeling like that, it is very, very, very normal. Um, the second thing I wanted to say is, there are people who hate when people say to them, like, I'm praying for you. Like somebody wrote here, Perry wrote here, like, why can't people just pray and not report it? Or
Yeah,
do you
that's
feel,
true.
or do you feel like Shira from Swaddleby is saying, like, do you feel that it depends on how it's said to you?
Yeah, I think I'm not getting new comments, so I missed those. I don't know why, but
All good.
okay.
I'm getting them.
Instagram. Sorry, guys. Yes. So first of all, I guess as like a blanket statement out there, I would always encourage people to ask themselves whenever they're messaging anything or even like talking in life, this is just like a good thing to have in the back of your mind. Like, what's your purpose? Do you, let's say it's a big influencer, okay? Someone who has like 50,000 followers, okay? Do you actually have a relationship with that person enough to feel like you saying that you prayed for them is comfort, or because they're a big influencer and you like want them to notice you? I'm not that, like, I'm not that big. So I think most of the people that are telling me this have some sort of relationship with me. We've messaged back and forth. We're not like friends, but we kind of like know each other. I recognize their name. I maybe so I've gotten some like surprise ones. I can't remember, but I do think it's very, you have to know who you're talking to. I can definitely see why someone who has like thousands of followers and might get, hundreds of messages a day would be like, this is uncomfortable and weird, and like, why are you messaging me, random person? I get it. I think everyone means well. There is definitely something to be said for, you don't need to tell people. And what, yeah, like, you don't have to tell me, you don't have to tell anyone. Your prayer still counts. That's 100% true. Um, there was a second thing that you said Shira said, but I can't see what she said. But I think I was supposed to address
She was
that too.
saying, does it matter who it's coming? Do you feel it depends on how it's said to
Yeah,
you?
yeah, yeah. It depends how it's said to you. I'm sure, unfortunately, that there are people not to have. I haven't ever received a message like this, but I'm sure that people have experienced this where a message comes across like maybe someone it really wants praise or something in return. Um, I think sometimes people use things like this as an opening to then use you as their therapist. And unfortunately, that's very uncomfortable as well.
Totally.
Um, there is that like trauma dump aspect to it. So I would say that definitely be careful. But if you're just sending a quick, like, hi, also if it's out of the blue, like if you are messaging someone who has not posted about their struggles with infertility in 2 years, that you daven for them, that might be a little bit weird. But if someone posted something recently that you really connected to and you're just like, hey, I was at the hotel, I davened for you. Your post was so meaningful. I don't see the harm in that. I'm sure there are people out there that would feel uncomfortable, and it is what it is. But in that, I don't, I genuinely don't see the harm in that. And again, like, I'm someone who's very comforted by it. If you tell me, hey, I was at the hotel yesterday, davened for you, and then send me 2 paragraphs about your personal struggle, understand why you're giving me context, but that's a lot of information to throw on somebody. It's very hard for me to like go back and forth on people's stories. I get it. Sometimes it works, sometimes it's like a case, it's kind of a case by case
Yeah.
basis.
I think I'll also say that for me personally, the comment comments that I got off social media, like the people who were in my life who knew my story. I mean, there was a period of years where I had four miscarriages in a row, and they were public losses. And like the random person coming up to me at shul, at the point where I was going back to shul, and it took me many, many, many moons to get back to shul, but like, oh, I heard I'm davening for you. Like that was really yucky,
Yeah, yeah.
really, really, really yucky. So I just love what you said about like it really has to feel right. It has to come from the right person. I want to read just a couple of things that people said here.
Yeah,
Rivka Holzer. Yeah. Do you want to read? Do you
I
see?
can't see them.
Okay.
I'm so upset. So can you please read
Yes.
them? Because I'm
Yeah.
so sad. I don't know how to get them back.
It's all good. It's
They
all good.
froze.
I'm reading. I'm reading. So Rivka Holzer wrote, I also think that you can say it in a non-head tilt kind of way, like
Yeah,
a genuine, I want you to know that I'm thinking about you and that I'm davening that things get better for you. Like a thousand
yeah,
percent,
yeah,
1,000%. Um, Shira had a great line here also. She said, just in regard to prayer or connecting with God being difficult at times, especially during like all of this stuff. She said, someone once told me that prayer can be F this. I
yeah,
can't handle this. Because when you believe that God hears everything, he also hears frustration as
yeah,
prayer.
yeah,
And she said, I wrote this specifically, like, and hoping that it helps someone. And
yeah,
yes,
yeah. I when I was when I got my diagnosis last year, I was diagnosed with OCD and infertility within 2 weeks of each other. So I was not okay. And and this was in August. It's been almost exactly a year. And the Chagim approached like right away. So I was dealing with intensive OCD therapy, trying to like starting treatment, trying to figure out all these things. I was like really not okay. And then you have Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which are obviously extremely difficult days. For me, they are very triggering for my OCD. So I was really struggling with like now that I know that this is my like thing, how do I keep myself safe? And I did not go to shul. I excused myself from shul for both holidays last year. I said, you're not doing this year. You are starting from scratch. This year, you are starting from scratch. And every year, I kind of like review notes that I have and I redo some notes. And there's a live that Lynx did many years ago about Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and how to kind of like observe these holidays in this intense time of prayer when you're grieving or like dealing with really difficult feelings. I have rewatched that live a million times because it completely like reframed my way of thinking and approach to religion and spirituality. And he talks a lot about this idea that you're like allowed to kick and scream with Hashem and you're allowed to voice your anger and you're sometimes like that's what davening is. And if the words don't work for you that are in the siddur, congratulations, close your book and just talk. And like no one had ever spelled that out for me. And I usually have like a theme for myself. So last year, my theme and kind of like this idea that I meditated on was that I was like on the outside of a train station and that I wanted to get on the train so badly, but I like needed to pack first or buy my ticket first or whatever the thing is. I was not ready to go on the train and I was not allowed last year to get on the train. I was allowed to do the prep work, and my goal and my check in that I had with myself all through Rosh Hashanah and all through Yom Kippur was your goal is to continue to want to get on that train. That train is like I don't know, the rest of like in not I wouldn't want to say the rest of Judaism because like I'm still living a completely from life, but like that's like whatever, it was representing like this thing that I needed it to represent. So the only goal I gave myself was to like keep wanting to get there, whatever that there is. And probably this year will honestly look very similar for me. Um, I haven't really made a plan yet, and I don't know what my theme's going to be and whatever. We have some time still yet,
We have a lot of time yet. All the
like,
holidays are late this year.
yeah, yeah. So it's yeah. So that's kind of like it, it's what Shira is talking about, and that's kind of my space is like you you could be as angry as you want, and you could just like if all you do on Rosh Hashanah is like scream at God, like that's kind of okay. What was discussed in this live that like was life changing for me was that like the goal of these days is that Hashem is like waiting for you, and all you have to do is connect. And your connection could be like a lot of frustration and anger. You're still talking, you're still connecting, even though you might be fighting. There are times that I light candles and I kind of look up at the sky and I say, I can't handle this right now. We're in a fight. Bring the hostages home. That's all I got for you. And then I walk away.
Yep. 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 For all of you out there who are wondering which live Ricki is referring to, this is a live. I will find it or you will
I
send
can
it
find
to me.
it.
Okay, perfect. The organization who did it is called Links. It's run by Sarah Rivka Cohn. It is an organization that supports people who have lost a parent. And they have so many wonderful programs about grief and about managing grief. And I actually remember the one you're referring to.
Yeah.
It was with her
Yeah.
husband,
It
if
was
I'm not
her
mistaken.
husband.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, and it was incredible. We'll share it afterwards.
Yeah.
We'll
I
share
can
it
find it. I can
afterwards.
find it. I always rewatch it. And I have so many notes on it. Like, put it up and write yourself notes because I'm telling you, like, if you're someone who thinks this way, like me, like, if this resonates with you, you will love this live. Like, it really will shift your perspective, especially if you are dealing with something that is making you quite angry. And like, let's be honest, who of us aren't dealing with something that is making us angry right now? um it's very helpful.
Amazing. Okay, let's switch gears now and talk about like how do you Ricki, how do you deal with the pain? How do you deal with the uncertainty? How do you deal with the grief? And I want to talk about it sort of like broadly, like what does it look like when you're in the midst of this, but also very specifically, like even what do you like you still have to get up and go to work, or you still have to get up and go to the supermarket, or maybe decide that you're
Yeah.
going to shul or showing up to a party. Like, how do you feel good about yourself? And I'm not saying that you should feel bad about yourself. I want that to be very clear to everyone and obviously to you. I know you know, but I'm sharing anyway. But it is so hard to even just like you feel sometimes. I know, I remember for me, like I just felt like my body was foreign. Like I didn't know
Yeah.
why. Like when I was dealing with the fertility stuff, it was like, why is my body failing? Why can't I get pregnant? Why aren't these treatments working? Why am I having so many of the side effects from these medications? And then, oh, wait, hold on. I just have to say this. So, someone just wrote, Elisa said, tell Ricki we know Crimson helps and we want him to make a cameo.
He's somewhere, I don't know where he is. I'm
And
like
yes,
hiding.
and yes, for all of you out there, we are intending to save this live as long as technology works. Okay, but so it was all of that. And then when I was dealing with my losses, I was just so deeply in pain and grieving. Like, I was depressed, I was anxious, I was just not myself in
Yeah.
1,000 ways. So I couldn't even show up for myself, let alone show up for other people or do things. So the general question that came in from people is, how are you managing throughout all of these
Yeah.
pieces?
I think the easiest way to answer, because I do get people ask me all the time, like, how are you functioning right now? How are you not on the floor? Like, is to remind people that this is far from my first rodeo. Unfortunately, some people in life are given tougher times. And I have been given, how do I say this without, I don't want to, I want to say this in a way that's like just factual and doesn't sound like I'm looking for something that I'm not. I have been given a harder task than most people. I have lived through so many different, huge, astronomical, traumatic things. It's like funny when you kind of think about it. I saw like of all things a TikTok a few months ago and someone was describing their friend and they were just like, that's my friend Sarah. She has never known a day of peace in her
Oh
life. And I was like, that's
God.
I was like, that's me. That's my, that describes me perfectly. Great. Like I just I'm able to function maybe better than people can understand because I've just been through a lot of hell and I did the work already. Like, once you put in the work in therapy and whatever else, like, you can copy paste all those same skills towards your current situation. Um, I'm, I'm on medication. I've been in and out of therapy, God, for like 10 years. Like, I'm a very worked on person. I did everything that I was supposed to do. And while, yes, the situation that I'm in now absolutely can destroy you and does destroy you. And if you're someone who has faced similar things to me and you're thinking like, oh my God, I'm a mess. What? How can Ricki get up and work? I've just done all this like work already. Like, I've done all this pre-work and that's not your fault that you didn't. Like, we've reached this same conclusion at different times of our lives and like God, God willing, you won't have to go through some of the stuff that I've been through. This is both the hardest thing that I've ever done and also so much easier than everything else that I've ever done. It's hard to explain. I don't even know if I could try to explain it, but some of the stuff that I have experienced did destroy me and did put me in that out of world, out of body experience. I have huge memory gaps. I have years of my life that I don't remember. Um, I went through a lot of suffering and pain and deep, deep, deep depression that people really don't even know the start of. Um, and people like Elisa joked, I have a dog, and I won't lie to you, that dog does help a lot. And there was a reason we got Crimson a year ago, just, like a month after I was diagnosed and dealing. It wasn't the sole reason, but it was a big part of it is that we knew that I was just going to be going through such an astronomical amount of things. And he is so helpful. There's obviously, if you haven't gone to therapy and you're dealing with infertility or you're dealing with a situation that is similar to some of the feelings we're talking about, you should do that because it will help you with tools. It will take time. It is not a quick fix, but it will help you long term. And one day you will not feel like you're falling into the pits of despair. If you are at a point where you really can't even get up to go to work or function regularly, medication is such a, and I always tell people, like, I know medication can be scary, but if you're at a point where you cannot get yourself to function at all, it is time for medication. That is the only thing that you can do because therapy isn't going to work. You don't you can't get out of bed, like you can't start kind of training your brain. So
Yep.
you need to like give yourself the ability to go to therapy. And if you can't do that, there's a problem. Like that's how you know the difference. Um, so that's how I'm like, I just did the work. I'm very lucky too. I will say this. I've always been able to go to work. Like, and I think it's just like a personality thing and having a job to go to has, even though like I work from home now, so I'm not like actually physically going somewhere, but having a place that I need to go to and do tasks and be responsible for real things has always been a savior for me. I am someone who's pretty career driven. I like to sit at my desk and get things done. I'm a manager. I have people that I am in charge of. I have projects that I handle a lot of big things, and that is like vital to keeping me alive. Like I need to have those things fueling me or I'll fall apart because I need constance and I need responsibilities because that's the only thing that's going to push me. Like so much we have to push ourselves and I can't always find the inspiration to push myself. Some people are better at that than others, but work is going to push me to function because other people are counting on me and I have responsibilities that are going to like get me in trouble if I fail.
I, I deeply, deeply, I'm speaking for a number of people, but specifically, um, Shira just had this very beautiful comment right now, and she said, young Ricki must feel so proud of Ricki now. And I think,
Shira, stop making me cry.
I, I, I
Yeah, I
think,
mean, sorry, you go ahead.
no, 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 go ahead.
I think like gosh, young Ricky was such a mess, but like I think where I think I'm most proud of myself is I've healed like the part of me that's able to be tough. Like I really lost the ability to speak up for myself and protect myself and like be rough around the edges when you have to be. And I used to really be like that when I was little. And then I lost it. And I think that's the part. Sounds weird, but like finding the ability to like be mean when it's productive has been very healing for young me who was pushed around and taken advantage of and not treated nicely by many, many people. And no one can do that to me again. Like, no one's really, really, no one is going to hurt me again unless I let them. And I'm not going to.
I, I didn't know you then, but I'm grateful to know you now in a place where you have tremendous tools to work through, as you said, all the things. Somebody is writing here, young Ricki was not a mess. This is Jess Listhouse. Young
Oh,
Ricki was not a mess. She was dealing with things no one else could imagine dealing with.
she knew me probably at some of like, well, she still knows me now, but she lived through some of probably the worst times in my life with me. Um, just for some context for the viewers out there, I still can't see any of the comments, which is very sad, but I'm sure all of you are writing beautiful, wonderful, awesome things, and I really wish I could see them because that was kind of like the point of this, but it's okay.
I'm reading as many of them as I can. Um, okay, as we're closing down on the hour here, I know, you and I talked a lot about like the fact that you you warned me and you said, don't ask me to give people advice as to how they're going to get through it. And don't ask me like all the things because I'm still very much in it and I can't tell people how to do things. I can only tell people me, where I am, where I'm sitting. Um, I'm going to push you slightly though.
Okay.
And I'm going to ask you what, like, very specifically, like, okay, yes, hold on, wait. There are a couple of things that I just want to read here.
Okay.
Um, Shira is someone wrote, Shira, it's beautiful to see you supporting your friends.
Oh, so
Um,
cute.
and someone named A. Greenstein is saying young Ricki was strong and helped herself to find the tools to be who she is today.
Oh, that's so sweet. Thank you.
Okay, so here's where I'm pushing you as we close
Sure.
here. You know, the specific question was like the people who are in your shoes right now, the people who are struggling and really like finding it hard to like lean on people who are finding it hard to like make it through the day. Like, okay, Crimson, we heard about therapy, we heard about medication. Can you give us like a couple of other like little things that work for you? Like it's not about like this is going to be the end all and like I'm giving you the like panacea of like all the things that'll be good, but things that like does like getting outside, like I'm like picking things like getting outside, specific like food things, hanging out with people or not hanging out with people, music, massage, like are there things specifically, and someone even asked very pointedly, they said like how do you feel pretty, like, and again it wasn't about you, it was like
Yeah.
she was dealing with it herself, like how do you feel pretty when you don't recognize your body, like you're bloated from medications and like your body has failed, but you're still a wife, you're still in a relationship, and you still also want to present yourself in the world as someone who is like not just schlepping around in sweatpants. Like what are things that work for you to kind of like give you those boosts when you need it?
Yeah. So I'm very lucky to have really great family, including my husband's family, and two incredible best friends. And one of those best friends, I like send literal podcasts to every week of voice notes. So I have my like, I'm gonna just talk about everything under the sun best friend, and then I have my like distraction best friend who
I
like
love
we
it.
just talk about like we like send videos to each other back and forth all day long and like just talk about like pop culture and whatever else, and like that is such a vitally important like position in my life. I have family that I speak to a lot. I'm very fortunate to have, some of you will be surprised at the the next word I'm going to say. My father is a psychologist. We have, our relationship can be complicated, but I am, in the end of the day, very fortunate to have a father who is a psychologist at my back. So there are definitely times that I call him up and ask him questions, and I do rely on his expertise in that way. And it is so helpful to have someone like that in the family. I worship the ground my niece walks on anytime she's 13, you know, girl's busy. She's the teenagery, like teenageiest teenager there's
Oh,
ever
God.
been. And like what, but when she gives me like even the second of attention, it like boosts me into the sky. And she's well aware of how much I love this child. My brother as well, even though he's 5 bajillion miles away. Like I really do have people in my life that will drop a lot within reason. I was able to see one of my best friends. We're in New Jersey a couple of weeks ago. Like there are times that like, and I know tomorrow if I told my husband David I need to go visit my best friend, he would say, "Okay, great, have fun. I'll come with," or whatever. Like there's so much I could do if I needed to. I'm eternally grateful that my husband is somebody that helps out as much as he does. He cleans, he cooks, he does a lot. Like, I'm very, very lucky. I could not survive right now if he wasn't picking up the slack. And when I couldn't really do certain things anymore, like when just keeping things clean became an astronomically difficult task for me to do, we got a cleaning lady. Like, and she is my savior. I love her so much. I also worship the ground she walks on. Um, there are things like that, like if you're really struggling and every task feels like the worst, hardest thing in the entire world, even the simpler ones, make a list and figure out what you can,
Are you done with your meeting? Yeah.
like, what you can not push off to somebody else, but what you can, like, what's the right word? You guys know what I'm saying. Like, figure out what somebody else can do for you. Now, I understand, obviously, there are financial constraints with some of these things, okay? I'm not telling you to go spend $200 on XYZ, a laundry service, whatever it is. But when you write the full list out, there are things that you will realize you can ask for help from other people in the community. There are things that you'll realize, let's say you see grocery shopping every week is just so hard, and ordering groceries online might be easier.
Yep.
There's no financial difference necessarily. It depends, whatever. I don't need to get into all the details, but it's one thing that's easier. It's too hard for you to order the groceries. Get your husband to do it. I'm sure he can handle that job. Like, there's always things that you can push off your plate, but you're not going to find those solutions unless you have somebody else who can help you. I look at my husband sometimes and I tell him, I'm done with making decisions for the day. Please make my decisions for me. Here are the things that I need decisions on, or like, I just can't think about this thing, whatever it is. You need to, some days it's dinner. Like, there are sometimes he looks at me and he's like, what do you want to eat for dinner? And I'm like, I'm actually going to have a panic attack if you put that on me. Can you, I don't care. Please make a decision. Please make the decision. And he'll do it. No problem. Men are like, are sometimes just, it's easier for them. Like, we're
Totally.
thinking of 30,000 things and they're like, boom, 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 boom. So whatever it
Totally.
is, find a guy in your life to make the decisions for you.
Pizza.
Yeah, like whatever it
Yeah.
is, it's somehow, it's just easier for them a lot of times. Like, if you make out the list, even that I understand can feel hard, but something has to give somewhere. Absolutely no one on this planet can do everything. And sometimes, unfortunately, things are hard. Life is expensive. Like, I don't want to pretend like that's not the situation. And I hope that no one will take that away from this. Within reason, I guarantee you there are things that you can take off your plate that have no financial issue, and you need to be able to either ask family or friends or people in your community for help. And like, 9 out of 10 times, people are so happy. I live in like a drop everything community. There's a chat that I know, God forbid, if I really need something, if I really can't like make a meal or do whatever, people will help us. And I don't know most people here, even still, because I'm such a homebody. I needed challah one week. David was sick. I had just had surgery related to infertility things. I wrote in the chat, is anyone going to a grocery store that can pick me up challah for Shabbos? I kid you not. I had within seconds probably 10, 12 messages of people not offering me store-bought challah, telling me I'm going to drop you homemade challah off at your house. And
Wow.
it's the smallest, it's not the smallest. What I'm saying is, to other people, that's like a no big deal thing.
Yep.
I still cry whenever I think about that. That so many women were right away just like, oh, you need challah? You're not getting challah from the store. You have to have my homemade challah. I'm not letting you. Meanwhile, we have store made. I never make challah. We have store made challah every week. Like, I'm not even. It was like the best treat in the. Like, I went from feeling so low and so stressed about challah to feeling like so spoiled and pampered because we got this like incredible challah. There are people that, out of the goodness of their hearts, have dropped things off at my house just because like I'm very lucky in that way to live in a community where I know people will pick things up where I've dropped them if I need them to. Unfortunately, like not every community is like that, but that's one of the like things that really is helping me is just even that it doesn't happen all the time, just that knowledge that like we do have a really, really great support system here, even if we don't always use it.
It is, it's 1,000% true. And I don't remember the exact quote. I was actually going to post it later this week, but um, Alea B Coaching, she posted something, I think it was like last night or the night before, a story about how um, she lives in LA and a friend of hers has knows someone who lives in LA, maybe it was her sister, who just had a baby, and this person wasn't able to go out there and visit her sister, and her sister really needed some help.
Mm.
So she asked LA, can you please go and be my village? Because I can't be the village
Yeah.
right now. Can you please be my village? And Alea just wrote this like very beautiful paragraph about how it was like, be the village, ask for a village, do villaging. I don't remember
Yeah.
like the words. I'll post it later, but it was
That's
so
great.
beautiful,
Yeah.
and it's exactly what you're saying now.
And I think that's like a great note to like wrap everything up because ultimately like I think that sums up what I'm doing on Instagram with like I'm trying to find my village but also be the village for you guys in a way in any way that I can because villages aren't always like in one place. Sometimes they're like spread around the whole world.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And on behalf of everyone here and on behalf of everyone who finds such strength in everything that you do and everything that you share, I thank you. Thank you for doing this. Thank you for being here. Thank you for giving of yourself in this vulnerable time. It is not easy, but it is deeply important,
Thank
and I
you.
thank you.
And I thank you for being here for all of us. And, every day I get messages too that are like, I was supposed to have a baby is just like the most incredible space. And I know that we all feel very lucky. Those of us who feel like we have you in our lives, we're very, very lucky. And I couldn't do this without you and without your space and without your posts. And I think a lot of people feel very similarly. And it's just such a need in our world.
We we are trying to do exactly that. Thank you. Thank you. For all of you out there, we are, God willing, intending to save this. And it'll be here. And then if it saves, again, it'll be up on our podcast probably next week or the week after. Not sure exactly when. But before we close, before everybody leaves, I have one really exciting announcement, which you may not have seen already. Um, we are in the middle of our fundraiser. We do one fundraising big push every single year. And tonight we are having a bunch of donors who are matching any donations that have come in up to $10,000. So we started this night, it was like a couple hours ago, around we were at 127,000. Anything up to 137,000 is going to get matched. So please give tonight, even exactly what she was saying. Please make a donation if you can, even $1. Everything counts. Make it under, and you make the donation under Team Insta, which Ricki is a part of. And people who donate under Team Insta, then you get entered into a raffle for every $18 that you donate. So thank you so much, all of you, for being here, all of you for supporting this work. And Ricki, thank you.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Thank you, guys.
Okay, guys, good night, everybody.
Bye. Good night.